And I see the Arc de Triomphe right behind you, Oliver. Is this the highlight of the official program?
Well, it certainly is a culmination of over a week's worth of visits by French President Emmanuel Macron and other world leaders who've been going around the various battlefields and commemorating those who died in World War I across northern France. We'd seen him not only meeting with Angela Merkel, as you were saying yesterday, but also with Donald Trump. He's also met with some African leaders who've been paying tribute to the forces from Africa who've given their lives in World War I. He opened up a memorial in northern France in the town of Reims. So this, now what we're going to see, really will be the centrepiece of all of those efforts to try and mark the 100 years since the guns fell silent on the battlefields of Europe.
Oliver, you know, the world media's attention tends to be pulled and tends to focus on Donald Trump bringing his America First agenda to what is quite a significant anniversary of a period of time that marked quite a joining of global leaders and created a new world order, as it were. Now, is it sort of prescient that Donald Trump is coming to France this week with his protectionist, inward-looking sort of policy, which 100 years ago kind of set America on the same track just before World War II? Is that the general mood and feeling around his?
Well, that is something that French President Emmanuel Macron would certainly agree with. He has been warning about the risks that we could be entering a similar period to the 1930s, where we're in the in-between periods of World War I and World War II, where nationalism had a chance to really grow, which then led to the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi atrocities that followed. So later on this afternoon there will be a Macron initiative called the Paris Peace Forum, where most of the world leaders will be going to try and talk about the different steps they believe the world should be heading in to maintain peace, whether that should be through the world-based rules order, whether multilateralism is still working. One notable absentee from that, though, will be US President Donald Trump. Instead, he will be going to a cemetery to pay respects to soldiers who died from his country here in France. Now, yesterday he cancelled a visit to another US cemetery because of the rain. That didn't stop other world leaders, though, including Canada's Justin Trudeau and Angela Merkel, from continuing their visits.
Oliver, touching on Trump once again and the fact that he is missing, or skipping rather, he's chosen to skip the peace initiative. Are we not standing, or rather, are world leaders not sort of preaching to the choir, as it were, speaking amongst themselves? Because once again, the rise of nationalism is not a problem specifically just within that room, but an important figure in that movement is Donald Trump. How much more forcefully or meaningfully are world leaders engaging with Donald Trump to essentially try to set him off course on this journey?
Well, it does remain to be seen, but during this trip, President Donald Trump will only be meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron. That meeting took place yesterday. There had been a sort of belief that President Vladimir Putin from Russia would be meeting with him as well, but that bilateral meeting has since been cancelled. It was on again, off again, and now they're saying that they will be meeting in Buenos Aires later in the month. The pressure for him to attend from other world leaders, we just don't know, but it does seem rather unusual that he will not be attending that meeting, where German Chancellor Angela Merkel will be giving a speech, as well as the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
Now, bringing it back home, what have been the sentiments of African leaders present at the centenary celebrations? Because, of course, you've touched on the fact that there has been an official and bigger recognition of African countries and Africa's role within World War I endeavours. What have been the sentiments from African leaders, and are they trying to take a bigger role within the agenda setting in this particular body and instance?
Well, African leaders who've come here are paying their respects, as you would imagine, saying that what happened 100 years ago should never ever be allowed to happen again. Now, South Africa's Defence Minister is also here and be paying their respects. at the Arc de Triomphe with the other 70-plus world leaders who are here. Now, a few days ago, we were actually in the Somme where that huge bloody battle took place, and we went to the South African cemetery there to see the 13,000 names of those people who had died in the World War I. And something that was quite interesting that came out of that was when this memorial was first set up following the war, because of apartheid, not all of the names of the soldiers were actually listed. It was predominantly the white soldiers who were on that wall. But then, in the following years, changes have been made, and so now all of the names of those soldiers, those 13,000 plus soldiers, are paid tribute to at Delville Wood, just north of Paris, where we are, about an hour's drive away.
Thank you very much for your time. That was Oliver Whitfield-Miocic live from the French capital.